Hi everybody, and welcome back. It's good to see you all again, and I hope that everything's been going well for you since I last spoke to you. Today what we want to look at is the whole idea of conducting an ecological footprint calculation for your school. So far you've had a go at trying to work out how many planets it takes for you to live under the current conditions in which you live. And I hope for some of you it was a bit of a wake-up call, a bit surprising for some. I know that when I first did it I was really horrified at just how many planets are going to take for me to keep living the way I am. You can just imagine if all of the people living in poverty at the moment and all those people who just don't have the conditions that we have to live were living the same way as us, we really would be in a dreadful situation. And so I think it's our responsibility to perhaps do something about it. I'm not sure what you think. But how about we look now at what we're going to do today, which is we're going to be focusing on a couple of key areas in our ecological footprint calculation of our school. In groups, what you're going to do is you're going to get around to the school and be as active as possible in making sure that you try to calculate all the different ways that we use energy. That's our first area. So one of the groups is going to be looking at that. So when we're talking about energy, we're talking about the electricity use in the school. We're talking about the costs of the electricity. In a school that I've done this in the past, some of the students have had an interview with the people in the front office to get an idea of, well, how much energy do we use through electricity in a year? How much money does it cost the school? I'm sure that if you ask nicely, they'll be able to give you some of that information as well. We want to look at the types of lights being used in all the classrooms. We want to focus on the heaters, the air conditioners, depending on where you're from. And of course, we also want to look at the computers and all that technology that we use and take for granted. So you're going to get around to the classrooms, get around to the different areas of the school and calculate and add how many lights there are and all that energy that's being used in the school on any one day or week. The next area is the water. You need to get around in a group and look at the bubblers, look at the toilets, look at the sinks, the gardens, the science labs and the canteens. Just where the water is being used. And once again, go to the front office and try to find out, well, how much water do we use in this school in a year? The other area we want you to look at is paper. It's a massive part of what a school uses and does in order to succeed in so many areas as far as education goes. But how much do we actually use? And so we want you to get around and look at the photocopiers, how many photocopiers are in the school, how many classrooms are using paper, the sort of recycling systems that might be in place, the bins that are being filled and how many recycling bins are being filled, and of course the notice boards where pieces of paper are used constantly. So what we're wanting you to do there is to talk also to the people involved in the photocopying areas and how many reams of paper, thousands of pieces of paper are being used in a week, in a day, and start to do some calculations around that. Of course there's food constantly being used. So when you look at the canteen, how much of the food comes packaged? Where do we get our food from? Where do the canteen people source their food? And what about the food that's brought into school? Perhaps you can start to calculate who brings their own food. Perhaps do a minor survey, even survey the people in this particular class, just to get a snapshot of what's going on in the rest of the school. Perhaps that's a way to do it. And of course, what are we doing with the food when we've used it? Is it just going into bins which then go into landfill, or are people taking their scraps home? That sort of information. So it's a really interesting one as well. Cleaning and upkeep. This is a big area of any organisation such as a school. So we want you to have a look at, well, what sort of products are used in the gardens and in the classrooms in keeping the place clean? What sort of chemicals perhaps are being used? You might need to speak to the cleaning department about that to get us an idea of the type of chemicals and why they're using the chemicals that they're using. Perhaps they are using eco-friendly chemicals that are not going to damage the environment already. Types of products used for photocopiers and printers, and how many products that we have in the school, because it's an enormous amount that we would use in keeping a school together and keeping the school running, keeping the place healthy for you. The purpose of the footprint calculation, well, you may be wondering, well, what are we going to do with all this information? I'm going to go out with my friends, I'm going to get all this information together. What do I do with it? Well, that's where the next part comes in. And what we want you to do is to first of all calculate quantity, how much of it that we're using. So that's the first step. Once you've done that, we start to look at, okay, do you think we're doing well in this area? What are some of the things we're doing well, and what are some of the areas that we're not doing so well and that we can improve? And then the final stage that we want you to take is, okay, what's our plan for the future? What's our recommendation for the future? And I think if you give it a go, speak to the the students from the University of Wollongong who are here. Speak to your teacher who's in this classroom and try to discuss what are some of the issues or the areas that we can improve to go forward. And what we'd like you to be able to do is then discuss that and present your findings to the senior management in the school, the principal or perhaps the assistant principal and other people who can have a say in making the changes for you. And so over the next 5 weeks, what we're asking you to do is to collect all your data. We call that what you're collecting is data. It's just another term for all the information that you've got, the numbers of photocopiers, etc., the paper and all the rest of it. And we want you to prepare a PowerPoint presentation over the next couple of weeks after you've finished it for the principal when you've finished doing your calculation. And remember, don't be nervous about it. You may feel as if you don't know exactly what you're doing, but I can trust me, please, that you will find the information is really informative. And remember to enjoy yourself, do the best that you can, and I'm sure that you will find that you're doing a good job and succeeding in trying to plan things for the future. But remember, if ever in doubt, make sure you ask someone about it. You've got plenty of good people around you who can be able to help you. And the other thing I just want to advise is when you're going around a school, remember you have permission to be out of the classroom, so just make sure that you don't disturb other classes and put yourselves into areas that might get you in trouble. I know it would never happen with students in high school, but remember, I've been there before and it could. Anyway, we'll see you again in another few weeks and really wish you luck with the ecological footprint calculation of your school. Bye for now.